I feel like I'm gonna take a lot of flack over this one. Hey everybody, I'm ZombieJohnny. Today, we're gonna be taking a look at a manga that I struggled to get through. This, unfortunately, is Death Note. Death Note is written by Tsugumi Ohba, illustrated by Takeshi Obata, and published by Viz Media. Death Note is a story of Light Yagami. Light is an all-star student with perfect grades who finds a strange black book with the words Death Note written on the front. This book was left by a Shinigami, or god of death, named Ryuk. Ryuk is bored of the spirit world and decides to be a little cheeky and leaves the Death Note in the human world to be discovered by any passerby. Ryuk's intent was to stir things up and cure his boredom by gifting the Death Note to any human that came across it. At first, Light is reluctant to start using this book. Light doesn't believe that the Death Note is actually real and figures that it's just some kind of odd joke. After testing the Death Note, Light has the epiphany that he could use this book to create a utopian society. All I can say is that my first idea of Death Note was that Light was the good guy and we followed his journey with the Death Note. But boy, was I wrong. Dead wrong. Light is cold. Cold as ice. You're as cold as ice. He is calm, calculated, and cold. He is a terrible person. After the random and conspicuous deaths of criminals from all over the world, Interpol suspects that this is no random act of God, and someone or some group of people is killing off fugitives and bad guys one by one. This grabs the attention of a mysterious and powerful friend to the Interpol. His name is L. L is given the task of solving the case of the one they have dubbed Kira. The word Kira doesn't mean anything, it's just the Japanese way of saying killer. And this is where the adventure of Light, Ryuk, L, Kira, and the Death Note begins. I'm just gonna dive right into it here. I think one of the biggest issues with this manga is that there really aren't any likable characters. No, scratch that. There are no likable characters. Light is sort of an anti-hero, but truth be told, he's just a cold, heartless killer. L is one-dimensional and has the most boring dialogue. The cast of supporting characters are either very serious and don't say much, or are comedic relief and all of the comedy falls flat on its face. Most of the time, the tone of the manga is super serious and the light and bubbly moments just fizzle out and feel unwelcome. All of the bubbly and comedic moments are so few and far between that they really have no place to be in the manga anyway. To say that Death Note is dialogue heavy would be an understatement. This is like reading a novel from page to page. I thought Nausicaa was long-winded. This is on another level. After a while, I did find that it did get boring at sometimes, but then something serious or interesting would happen and it would suck me back into the story, only to do the same thing over and over again. To be completely honest here, nothing, and I mean nothing, happens in the first half of the series. It drags. A lot of the dialogue seems to run in circles. The characters are constantly having this inner monologue repeating the same ideas over and over again. There is no action other than a tennis match between Light and L trading blows for 6 or 7 panels. Not until after the halfway point in a new arc of the adventure of the Death Note does it actually pick up. But getting to this point was a long haul. To put it into perspective, it was almost 7 volumes worth of reading. Now, after saying all of that, there was something that did keep me reading. There is something to be said about Obata's art style. It's downright amazing. I don't know what else to say. It's a very distinct art style and can be picked out anywhere, and it's very impressive. Most of the series that Obata has worked on over the years all seem to be fairly short-lived. The very first manga review I ever posted on this channel was one of Obata's other works, Ralgrad, and that series was only 4 volumes long. Obata's other works such as Bakuman and Hikaru no Go range around 20 volumes. Death Note, which is arguably his most popular works, is only 12 volumes long. He seems to gravitate towards series that are really short and concise and don't have a lot of padding or filler. On the topic of Obata, he seems to be a fairly interesting guy. By interesting, I mean he was arrested by police for driving around at 12:30 in the morning with his headlights off, brandishing a knife that he claims he uses for when he goes camping. Yeah, interesting. I tried to do some deep digging into this manga. I was really curious to know what kind of reader demographic that Death Note has. I couldn't really find any information on this subject, but I felt that it was aimed for a group about age 13 and up. I had read an interview with the writer Tsugumi Ohba, and he had said that it was aimed at a younger audience so that they could push back the ideology and focus on pure entertainment. I agree with that, and I feel that it's aimed at a younger audience because instead of letting people use their imaginations and discovering things for themselves, everything seems to be explained in great detail so that you won't get lost as to what is happening in the story. Now, I'd like to move on and talk a little bit about the presentation of this manga. This all-in-one edition is smaller than your normal digest-size manga. Obviously, this was done to save on printing costs and also to save the consumer on costs as well, but in all honesty, I really wish it was printed in a little bit larger format, only because it's 12 volumes crammed into one and the gutter space is a little bit too tight for my liking. If it was hardcover and printed in a larger format, I would have been all over it. But this was on sale and it's easier for someone like me who is just curious and wanted to read it to understand the hype. I don't know if anyone else is like me, but I have a really hard time cracking the spine on any book that I own. If you look at my comic book and manga collection, they are mostly in pretty damn good condition, and you know that none of my spines have been cracked, unless I have loaned the book out to someone or my children have gotten a hold of it. Anyway, with this book it's really difficult not to bend it 12 ways to hell to get a good angle on reading it. The pages have a very nice gloss finish, which is almost refreshing. I'm used to the 3-in-1 One Piece volumes and I feel like I could tear those pages apart just by looking at them the wrong way. It also comes with a very nice little slipcase, which is actually a nice addition to this edition. To be honest, the presentation of this manga was put together very well. I approve. There is something that I have to say about the finale of the series though. The ending, don't worry, I won't spoil anything. The ending is so tonally different from the rest of the manga, it was a little shocking. Disturbing almost. It was also very gory. In comparison to the rest of the killings, it's mostly just people dying of heart attacks. But the end of this series is over the top gore. I truly was not expecting that. I ended up doing a little bit of research around the universe of this series. There is an anime, an OVA, a live-action movie series, and I had no idea that there was this much content on it. Well, I might as well go full circle with Death Note and watch the anime series and the Netflix movie. Yay. The anime is very true to the manga, but it gives it that life that it needs. This story was meant to be an anime. All of the monologue and explanatory dialogue is accompanied by some small motion, dolly shots, and also most of it has some sort of music. It really helps the moments because reading them is very repetitive. Now, I watched the dubbed version of the anime. Oh, I know, I'm sorry. I watched the dub version. Yes, I watched the dub version of the anime. Well, I watched some of it in dubbed and some of it in subbed. My real reasoning is that I've read it once already, why would I want to read it all over again in subtitles? It was really so that I could be doing something while I was watching the series. I started watching the anime the moment I was done the manga, so I didn't feel like I was missing too much anyway. What more can I say? The anime follows the manga pretty much to a T, but it just feels better. Most of the people that I've ever talked to have only watched the anime and they really enjoy it. Now that I've watched both, I don't know if I can say that I enjoy it. The series is still very over-explanatory and honestly very boring, so we're gonna move on. Now for the Netflix live-action film. It's poorly done. It would have been better if it was a live-action short series. They even edited it in a way that it makes it feel like a short series. This is a very American teen flick adaptation. Well, maybe not so teen, because all of the killings in this movie are incredibly gory. Like Tokyo Gore Police gory. Like Ichi the Killer gory. Like Japanese live-action gore films gory. Why? Seriously, why? To sum it all up, I wasn't really the biggest fan of the manga, so why would that give me any reason to like the film? Now, there are plenty of Japanese live-action films, but I'm not digging that deep. Fun fact, the live-action Death Note film stars Tetsuya Fujiwara, who played the lead role of Shuya Nanahara in Battle Royale. If you haven't watched Battle Royale, I suggest you do. Overall, Death Note for me was a hard series to swallow. It was over-explanatory, dull, the characters were miserable, and I felt like it had no pulse. There was hardly any forward movement. When something did happen, it was very short-lived, and the story sat back down in its comfortable safety net of inner dialogue and constant accusations. Maybe this series just wasn't aimed for my taste in reading, though I must say I don't regret reading it. Once again, Obata's art is still incredible, and I can see the series' appeal solely through his illustrations. And there is some really great writing throughout the series. Some of the chapters really had me thinking on how this is going to turn out. It just didn't get me excited to pick it up and read it. But now I can say that I've read it, and I understand what this series is about, and I'm allowed to have my opinion on it. Total page count, 2,400. Total volumes, 12, or 1 all-in-one edition. Total score, 2 out of 5. Thank you so much for watching. I apologize if I offended anybody. I truly wanted to enjoy Death Note. But, like I stated earlier, there is something to be said about Obata's artwork. It is truly outstanding, and I seriously enjoyed it for Rallgrad, and I seriously enjoyed it for Death Note. It's just that Death Note didn't really feel like it appealed to me. It just didn't click with me. Maybe if I had watched the anime first, it might have clicked a little bit more, but unfortunately, I read the manga first, and it kind of jaded me towards the whole thing. It just, yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed making this review. It took a very long time, but it was still fun to do. And I hope you guys see through some of my opinions and enjoy the video for what it is. And I hope you hit that like button. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. ZombieJohnny, I'm peacing out.